Howdy artists. I made it back to the studio where it's nice and cozy and I can watch the snow without getting too cold. I decided that by the time you watch this video, the snow may have melted and you can't create any forms. So thus, we should work with what we have. And if you're at home being cozy like me, you have plenty of those forms already around you. Yes, a sphere, a cone, and a cylinder. So, I need you to go on a scavenger hunt and look for those items. You may be surprised at how many you find. I'll look for some too, so that way you have an example, and I'll also get my flashlight. You'll need some source of light. And now you need your source of light. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go look for your forms. I'm gonna drink a little bit more of my apple cider. Is that a snowball fight? I had an absolute field day looking for all the different types of 3D forms. I'm sure you did too. So, the 3 that I'm gonna stick to are this one sphere here made out of styrofoam, this cone that's really a lampshade from downstairs. Remind me to put it back. My speaker. This is a really good cylinder here. It's solid, and since it's black, you really can see the light and the dark on it too. But you'll be using a light source to help you out. You can use your phone or a candle. No candles. Don't play with fire. All right, so think of some simple things you can use as a light source. They will help you when it comes to creating the value. Don't worry, I'll show you step by step. So I took out the time to examine the value that I see on each 3D form. You'll notice the value is your lights to darks. So when I'm looking at the sphere and I can see the brightest bright of light, and then I see a medium gray to a dark gray, that's giving me my value and range of color. You want to pay attention to that when you're drawing your 3D forms. That's what makes it look 3D. Because if you don't add the value and you just have the shape, it's exactly that, a shape. Also, practicing 3D forms gives you the skills you need to create everything else, because items are not items. They're just lines and shapes that you know. This one here, you have a cylinder and a rectangular prism. Bloop, bloop, bloop. It's not nail polish. So you really want to pay attention to the shapes that you know when it comes to creating your own artwork. But for right now, we're just practicing the shapes and 3D forms. Sounds good? Okay, get some paper, colored pencils, and don't forget your light source and 3D forms. Yeah, grab all those things. I'll be right here, sitting, ready. Let's go. So if you look at this sphere here, you can see some shadows on the left. You can see that it's lighter on the right, and you can see that the shadow kind of has a curved shape, like a crescent on the sphere. But if you use a source of light, you really can see how the shading looks on your sphere. So if I place this at the top here, my lightest point is here. And then you notice you'll get a little bit of a lighter gray there, a darker gray here, and then you have your super dark gray for your shadow. So you want to pay attention to that. Oh, I forgot. It's okay if you want to use other 3D forms, such as a cube or something that's like a donut, but make sure you're not grabbing anything that's too complex, such as Bob Ross. Even though his afro is a spherical majesty. We're not doing that right now because he's a bit too complicated. Okay, so keep it simple.
Step 1 is going to find your 3D forms. Step 2, arrange them where you can see most of the shape of all 3. Step 3, add your light source. Step 4, draw your 3 forms.
Step 5, make it funky. Alright, so the next shape is the fantastic cone, which is a weird looking triangle. I actually want these to overlap because I'm going to arrange them in a way to where it looks kind of like they're connected, but really they're not. They'll just be floating together in space. Now, I know that this curves down at the bottom. So I'm gonna try to do that. Put these diagonal lines. There. Now I'm going to assume that this cone is overlapping my sphere. So I'm going to erase this part of the sphere. And then I will add in my fantastic cylinder. And my cylinder can be placed in this area here. So it has the curve at the bottom that I see. The edges round off. Then it goes straight down. If you have any trouble making straight lines, use something that you already have. So I kind of have these little ninja strips, and I can use the side of it as a straight edge. You have a straight edge everywhere. And somehow I still made that crooked from using the straight edge. Hilarious. Okay, so then I trail that down, looking at my object, placing the bottom section, matching the line as best I can. Fix with your fantastic eraser. Thank you, Razor.
You're welcome.
Razor's so helpful. Okay, and I've decided that I want the speaker or my cylinder to overlap my cone. So I'm going to erase this part of the cone. Oops. So now I have the shape of a circle, the shape of a flat top triangle, and a rounded rectangular oval shape. Okay, so since they are shapes at this time, they're not 3D forms, let's talk about how to get it to a 3D form. So if I'm looking at my fantastic items with the light shining on them, I can see the value of the lights and the darks. So I'm going to pick a color for each 3D form. I'm going to make my sphere pink, darling. Oh yeah. Okay, so I have this fantastic pink here, and I want to pay attention to the fact that in this intersection it is lightest. So I'm going to start adding in a bit of color. Going around that circular section, it should be really light. Whatever the lightest area is, leave it white, okay? Now you'll notice that when I'm coloring nicely. Do not scribble. You go in one direction. How many directions was that? One. Even though it looks like I'm going around, my lines are still going one direction. And then when I add more lines, they're gonna get a little darker as I get closer to the edges of my sphere. That's adding that value. So to make it darker, you're just gonna press down a little more. still trying to maintain that same direction of color. My lines are going the same direction, but that color is getting darker, baby. Oh yeah. Darker over here. Making sure I don't start coloring on my cone. Be careful. Here. Oh yeah, now my sphere is looking more spherical. So I have a bit of some shadows that I need to put down here. So I'll press down even more. And you notice it's really starting to gain some shape there. So just take your time, smooth it out, go over the areas that you've already colored, but do it lightly, lightly, lightly. It's so much easier to start off light and then slowly add more pressure and color than it is for you to press down super hard and then try to erase. Your eraser may not be able to erase that. And then you're gonna give me sad face. And I don't want to see sad face. If you have a sphere, the value should be round. And now it's time to move on to the fantastic cone. Cone time! What are you doing? I thought it said cone time. Oh, I'm sorry, just so sorry. Okay, alright. So, when it comes to the cone, think of a different color that you can use. Now, if you're using yellow for anything, it's very hard for you to see highlights, very hard for you to see shadows, because yellow at its lightest and at its darkest is almost the exact same color. So pick another color. Yellow great for the background or keeping something simple. Okie dokie. So I'm gonna try green. So the highlight for this cone here is more in the center section. So I'm gonna go around the little center section that was pretty much white. Very lightly. Adding in the green. Taking my time. Right now it kind of looks like a beard. And you can always add layers of color. You start off putting the pressure that you think is enough, and if you need to add more, you can. Now you can take your time and keep going and make this as smooth as you like. Whatever floats your boat, or finds your lost remote, works for me. All right, now I can move on to the cylinder here. What color should I do? Well, I know that I really want a blue background because blue is my favorite color. So that means I should use something else for the shape. How about purple? Now, I saw that most of the light hit this section here. So I will add in my color around it. Now I'm not gonna put in this little bottom area here because I'm really just focusing on the fact that I want it to look like a 3D form. So if you don't put in all the detail of your shape, that's okay. Just make sure you're shading it to make it look like a 3D form. So if you end up in a section where you are starting to color something way darker than you need to, use your eraser. Now with color pencils, you may not have the kind that are easy to erase.
So just take your time and try your best. There you have 1, 2, 3 shapes, and you're just practicing. You can add in your shadows if you like. Just pay attention to the fact that they exist. With the angle of my light, I have a shadow on the right from the sphere, and I have a shadow on the left from the cylinder. You can put in your shadows or you can leave it be, but make sure that you just color the background, because I would like this to be full color. And when I say full color, that means the whole sheet of paper is colored, not
I drew this, Miss Dawn, and then I left this white because I felt like it.
don't do that. Color the whole thing, please. Thank you. So I'm gonna do a background of blue. If you want, you can make it interesting. You can decide, oh, I'm just gonna put some clouds here because I have floating shapes. You can do whatever floats your boat and finds your lost remote. I just really need you to practice doing some 3D forms. This is a great basic step for just creating form. If you decide to put clouds in yours, I'm okay with that. Typically, I don't like it if people copy my ideas, but we're just practicing, so you're good to go. Alright, so I have my clouds here. Just make sure you're adding some type of background. And then add color. All right. Make sure you put your own signature in the corner. You should have a complete piece of artwork with 3 3D forms.